Yo guys, welcome to The Last Lap. Don't forget to drop a lovely, juicy 5-star rating if you're watching on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Hope you enjoy, and let's get into it.
Most under pressure driver. Let's pick one each. Most under pressure driver next year.
It ain't Lance Stroll.
No.
His dad owns
Man's got that lifetime 360 contract.
Lifetime contracts, man.
What are we thinking? Any names come to mind? Or maybe because I think there's some more obvious ones. Yuki Tsunoda, I think, is a pretty obvious one.
Yuki Tsunoda's
with Nick de Vries coming in as rookie teammate, and Helmut Marko being like he's going to be team leader. That must be hard to listen to.
I'm not sure Yuki's ready for that pressure, bro.
I'm not sure either. I'm really concerned. I love Yuki, man, and I'm worried because he has to take on that responsibility now as a team leader. Realistically, if he doesn't beat Nick de Vries next season, he is gone. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that is the assignment, and it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
From the get go, because Red Bull have some pretty average junior drivers in F2.
Yeah, no one's really set it up.
There's a lot of them. There's a lot to choose from. Zane Maloney as well, who just won second in F3.
They're signing guys like left, right, and centre. Do you know what I mean? It's
he
crazy.
is sick.
Well, Liam Lawson's
really rate
doing
him.
Super Formula.
Yeah,
which is the route Gasly took.
Yeah, I think Liam Lawson and if Zane Maloney was to have a good F2 season are the two that would probably be. Dennis Hauger, maybe, if he could get himself together. Iwasa.
He's just been confirmed.
They've got a lot of options. So many of them. They need a third team. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Plug even more clothes. AlphaTauri 2 or something like that. But no, it's Yuki.
Whatever Red Bull is in French. Just slap that out there as well.
Brilliant idea. Yeah, trademark that. But honestly, Yuki, he's hanging on there by a thread. I mean, one of my favorite all-time moments was I think when he got confirmed midway through 2021.
Yeah.
And in the Spa interview, he was like, yeah, even I was surprised when they gave me the contract.
I love him. He's just so refreshingly honest. It's great.
But you know what? He's also a bit too honest. I would not have said that. There's something in the back of my mind. Of course I feel like that, but maybe I shouldn't actually say that.
I rate it. No, because actually, looking at pace-wise, he actually, over the course of the year, his race pace relative to Pierre, his qualifying pace relative to Pierre, wasn't that far off.
Yeah, he just makes some mistakes.
And the mistakes are so glaring as well. Yeah. You can't drive into your teammate.
Yeah. Silverstone was bad. Canada was bad.
Spinning it in the pit, yeah.
Singapore was bad.
But so
Singapore less bad.
Yuki's the most obvious one. What other drivers are we? Go on. What
I think
one each?
In a different way, I'm going to go Carlos Sainz because I feel like one thing he's not on the pressure side. I don't think loses.
He ain't losing his job, but I hear you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think Carlos Sainz, he had a relatively quite a good start to Ferrari in 2021 when he was, obviously I know that he beat Leclerc, but Leclerc was still the quicker driver in 2021. But it was still amazing. He was competitive. Ferrari were kind of on the up, and the driver lineup, kind of similar to 2022 and McLaren Alpine, the driver lineup made the difference for Ferrari in 2021 to beat McLaren. Now he didn't kick on in 2022 when he was given a race-winning car, and when you are, it's kind of a similar argument that I have with Lando. I'm looking forward to seeing Lando in a race-winning car because that asks you very different questions.
Yeah.
When those questions were put to Sainz at the beginning of the season, he was cracking. He was not on Leclerc's level. He was nowhere near. And even though he did get his first win, he obviously has pole positions.
I think Australia was a good example of what you just said because he was overdriving, desperately trying to make up positions and ended up
binning it.
And I want to see him
in the sand.
Didn't he go twice? I think.
Exactly. After 2 laps or something, I think he was just frustrated.
Yeah.
And I want to see him perform because I do think that there is a good driver in Sainz. I don't think he's quite as quick as Leclerc, but I also think he's got a few little attributes that are better than Leclerc. He can actually call out the strategy a lot. He's a lot more kind of better at calling out the strategy when he sees it. Leclerc kind of trusts the team a little bit more. So there's positives and negatives, but he needs to have a good start because if they do give him a championship winning car, he needs to show that he can actually, fight for it. Otherwise, he's going to become Leclerc's number 2.
I think that's the crucial thing. It's not about losing a job. It's about what are you going to be seen as by the team?
Yeah.
And to be honest, he did bring it back pretty well. I don't think the difference between him and Leclerc in terms of points was as bad, certainly as it was at the first half of the season when Leclerc was winning races consistently.
He did by Russell, by the way, in the championship. I forget this year.
I think he did.
Carlos did.
Yeah, so look,
that's not good.
Look, I think as well, you look at, Russell was the one who torpedoed him at Austin.
I was going to say, the one thing I do have faith in Carlos is that he did get it together.
His engine went boom in Austria as well.
Yeah, he did pull it back towards the second half of the season. I think his momentum actually, hopefully going into next season, will take him through. Because, that pole in Kota.
But he needs to start on the front foot because there were also some races. I remember Singapore. he was like, I didn't even notice him in the race. Like, he was just there, like 30 seconds
He
behind
was
Leclerc.
completely off the pace a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
just,
and that
It's
can't run.
inconsistent.
and keep in mind, if Mercedes do, because I think there's almost like this general feeling like Mercedes are probably going to overtake Ferrari. Like, there's more confidence in Mercedes to do
100%.
better than Ferrari. Like,
There is, yeah.
it's only going to get tighter next year. Lewis and George are only going to get closer, and he needs to start the season on the front foot.
Well, in terms of gaps between teammates towards the top of the order, is there an argument for Sergio Perez being slightly under pressure? Because if Ferrari and Mercedes are close to Red Bull, hypothetically, he cannot afford to be 150 points behind his teammate. That won't
Christ,
run.
150.
Yeah, and I know Max Verstappen had an unbelievable season, won 15 races or whatever. However, Red Bull were not lucky, but Red Bull were lucky that they had such a dominant car.
They were in the privileged position.
They were in a privileged position
Yeah,
of being. It was like Bottas at Mercedes,
Exactly.
where it was kind of like, if you actually had a challenge, you'd be fucked. You would be finished right now because Bottas is not bringing in enough points. It's having disaster classes every now and again. Perez is not the level of Bottas at Mercedes. Perez is better than Bottas was at Mercedes. But 150
I don't know about that,
points.
actually. I'll disagree with that because Bottas was able to at least push Lewis like in qualifying sessions and get a few. But I think they're kind of at similar levels. I always think of the thing with Sergio Perez. I know he's doing technically a bad job relative to Max, but I just keep thinking to myself, where were Red Bull 2 or 3 years ago? They were swapping drivers in and out. They were getting hot
Needs
under the
some
collar.
stability, yeah.
Just for the moment, you're riding this wave. Max is winning championships. Checo's kind of fighting for second. Just kind of ride it out for the moment. Don't kind of put too much pressure on him at the moment. But ultimately, he does have that long-term contract, I think, until the end of 2024. So, technically there's no seat, but we know Red Bull contracts are like, toilet paper, mate.
Perez knows all about having a contract that didn't come to be.
Exactly.
And Vettel came in for his
even
seat.
though he's doing not a great job, I totally agree. I think in context, I'm just like, he's doing okay for Red Bull standards, who like chop and change drivers like Ferrari chop and change team principles, to be fair.
This is my thing about if Ferrari are able to close that performance gap and potentially other teams, getting up there and potentially, in and about in qualifying. I mean, we saw like towards the end of the year, it felt like the Alpines and the McLarens qualifying pace. Like I think Abu Dhabi, that they were within the kind of that second kind of window. You just think that relative gap between Sergio and Max, it has to close. They have to find a way. Because I don't think Sergio's like any worse a driver than like a Carlos Sainz, for example. I think they're very on par. But like,
I
they
wanna
have to
ask you
find a
two then,
way.
If he does, let's say, get caught out, has a few more disaster classes in 2023, who do you think replaces him? Is it definitely Ricciardo? Or is there someone else?
I mean,
perhaps?
surely that's like, I know Christian's gone on record and be like, no, we've got a contract. And he kept repeating contract. I'm like, yeah, we know you got a contract.
Yeah.
Like, surely they're gonna be considering it if what I've just said comes to be. If it's similar to this year just gone, where Red Bull are quite clear and Checo is able to do enough of a job to support Max and to be up there and pick up the pieces, then fine, maybe carry on. But if it's more competitive at the front, and they've got data on Daniel, they've got they know how to set up a car for Daniel Ricciardo for him to drive just as, if not quicker than Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Yes, Max isn't the same driver as he used to be necessarily, but I don't think pace is Max's biggest gain since 2018, the last season they raced together. I just think his consistency, his mindset, his decision making, I think that's where Max has improved. But Daniel Ricciardo could on merit outpace Max Verstappen numerous times over the course of a season when they were last together.
Yeah.
Who would you put Niran if it wasn't Checo, except for Latifi?
Yuki Tsunoda.
There we go. That is the
him back.
correct answer.
Get him in. Honda
I think
connections.
The funny thing is, ideally, I think Red Bull would like that. Like the whole point of the junior team is to put
Yeah.
someone like a Yuki in
it
there.
ain't happening. There's no one ready.
But they've
There's
got
no
so,
one.
much,
far
so much
back.
data on so many drivers, and they've
Yeah.
got data on Perez. They're going to start getting some data on Ricciardo now to see if they've got a McLaren Ricciardo on their hands or a Red Bull / Renault Ricciardo on their hands because they're two very different drivers. And it's just like I think they're in a good place, really. Red Bull in a great place to see out this season, see if Checo can step up and can close that gap.
Yeah.
If he can, great. If he can't, they've got options.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. That Red Bull seat doesn't matter what contract they give you. You'll go a year per year. Like you can get sacked the next race, you know what I mean? So yeah, that pressure's always going to be on. I remember there was a few questions even, it was kind of being asked mid-season, but obviously Checo came back, won Singapore, and it kind of like, all Checo needs to do is win 2 or 3 races a year, and it kind of silences the noise a little bit. But we'll see if we'll be able to do that.
Yeah.
But even that, like,
That's crazy though, isn't it? When you think about
but
it.
Singapore, like Max had 2 laps that could have been pole, and then the team didn't put enough fuel in the car.
Yeah.
But again, that's another instance. If Ferrari made that mistake, we'd be clowning.
True, actually. I don't think enough was
Because it's Red Bull. Because we just forget about it.
I think they won the next 5 after
Putting
that.
Max
So
on
it's
the
like,
wrong
you can't
time.
forget
That's
it.
what I mean. They bought enough credit to get away with it. Putting him on the wrong time.
Brownie points, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you rack up enough, then when you make a mistake, everyone's like, it's fine.
Exactly.
When you're Ferrari and you're doing it every week, it's kind of
Exactly, like
different.
Red Bull have that credit in the bank. That's
Exactly.
the difference. So, but with
exactly.
Ferrari, we're like, screw every single thing. Like, oh my god, is he put the right tire on?
Yes. Ferrari are in debit. Red Bull are
Exactly.
in
Yeah,
credit.
they're in overdraft.
They're in overdraft.
Oh yeah, they're struggling to meet the payments.
Worried.
Michael Mass is going to be knocking on the door, debt collection.